Hello,
Hello, everybody.
we're back. We're back this week again, and this week we've got a very exciting stream for everyone. Finally, the long-awaited launch of Prusa for Quinly. Are you excited, Leah?
I'm excited.
Excited. Uh, it's the same three of us again, as it's been for the last couple weeks.
Less exciting, I guess.
That's pretty exciting. I mean, um, yeah, myself, Mateo, co-founder of 3DQ. We've got Leah, one of our engineers, and then behind the camera we've got Steven, also one of our longer time engineers,
Yeah.
and well, product manager for the Quinly. So this is a big day for him,
Yes, sir.
launching of a new Quinly. Nice to see everyone in chat as well. Welcome. Um, yeah, I guess let's just kick it off. Um, what are we doing today?
We're launching Quinly for Prusa.
Yeah, we'll be showing off um, and actually doing a complete build of our Quinly kit for the Prusa MK3, um, MK3S, and the MK3S Plus, I think. All of the Prusa MK3s work with this kit, and yeah, we'll be putting it together, talking about how Quinly for Prusa changes the way you use Prusas, how Quinly can help you change the way you run your print farm. And then we'll also be talking a lot of the very specific features that we've actually built into the Prusa that might not have been available in the Ender Quinly kit. Um, so lots of stuff. There's also a giveaway on our Instagram that's going to be closing at 6, so we'll announce the winners on stream. Um, and yeah, if at any point we're always watching chat, so just submit any sort of questions. If you know anyone who uses their Prusa very heavily or uses it to earn money, I would definitely invite them over because we'll also be going through a bunch of use cases that we've done with the Prusa and look at costing, but also um, discuss some of our customers' case studies as well and how they've been using Quinly to um, basically increase their margin, decrease the time they need to spend on their printer, um, and essentially like yeah, produce way more than they were before. The numbers are gonna be really interesting, so stay tuned for that. Um, yeah, so should we
Jump right on into
just
it.
dive in? What is Quinly for Prusa? So for those of you who are just learning about Quinly, it's an automation suite, including hardware and software that is an upgrade to your existing machines. Yeah, Leia's got um, the
Pieces
part,
all laid out.
yeah, laid out right in front of her, and we'll be putting it together. And one of the things, like Prusa, so ever since we launched it back in October, Prusa has been one of the most highly requested printers, and it definitely makes sense. Like Stephen was saying, how uh, Prusas were made for Quinly
Yeah.
because they're so tightly engineered, and I think this whole stream is going to be a bit about like how Prusas are really good. um, but what's awesome about them as a platform for Quinly is that they have a lot of standard kind of sensors, and calibration tools built in that makes them easy to operate, and that's why a lot of people invest in Prusa over an Ender. And then what's really interesting and what we'll dive into is how Quinly makes use of those tools um, and automates them in order to run your printer for you um, as you would. So like Quinly is basically taking your place as an operator, and all of that time that you spend calibrating the machine and running the machine, removing parts, scheduling parts, Quinly will take that off your plate. And it's what we spent the last, we've been developing this since December, and like it's a big team developing on it. And what we've spent these last months doing is um, integrating, like highly integrating Quinly onto the tools and sensors that Prusa gives you, so that you get a very, very consistent and reliable experience using your printer. And I think as we go through, a lot of this will resonate with Prusa owners, the investing a little bit extra into their printer so that they don't have to deal with all the headaches that might come with lower end machines.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Quinly and Prusa together is definitely, if you just want a workhorse machine that like will run itself and you can just focus on growing your business or designing parts. Yeah, we'll go through all of that and talk about some more specifics. Yeah, so I did mention like we've been developing this for over 6 months now, and the Quinly for Ender came out last October, and we've shipped a whole ton of them out, and we'll discuss kind of how our customers have been using it and how that extends to the Prusa as well. And we'll also be talking about some of the cool new features, like for example, with the integration we've done on the Prusa, you no longer need any custom firmware. We've adapted Quinly to exactly match what you've got loaded on there.
We got 24 or more options on the Enders.
Yeah.
Not one option on the Prusa.
Yeah.
It's the most current firmware.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent a lot of time pulling all of that variability onto the Quinly software side so that when you install it, you don't have to spend time. We don't want to make you, the point of Quinly is to reduce your time involved running the printers. And so we don't want Quinly to be a burden, even in the installation process.
Yeah, we've got sub 3-minute software installation.
Yeah, yeah.
All the software in 3 minutes or less.
It's definitely far faster. Yeah, so this whole stream is going to be putting together the kit, talking about how if you value your time, you definitely want Prusa for Quinly. And I think a lot of people who purchase Prusas are people who value their time greatly. And we'll be talking about ROI and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much the overview. We can start going into what Quinly for Prusa actually does compared to compared to just running your Prusa manually.
Yes.
So I think oh yeah, as we're going through this, please post questions in chat if you have any questions about running Prusa on Quinly. Stephen will throw them to me and we'll answer them live as well. So Prusa for Quinly, what do you get when you buy it? So it's a kit that will entirely automate your Prusa. It'll let you queue up G-code files. It will automatically clear with our special vapor build surface, and then we've also got a tilt bracket that we'll be putting together, ramps, all of these things that prevent parts from getting stuck and clearing parts in a specific direction, just so that the printer can keep on running 24/7 basically. And one of the really nice things about Prusa as a platform is they are built to kind of have everything you need at a basic level already built in. So things like their auto bed leveling, they have a probe that they custom source for their particular bed setup. And what that means is it means that when we integrate Quinly with that probe, it's known hardware, and when you get more and more printers, you'll actually have the exact same experience on every single printer, and that makes using Quinly to run your print farm extremely scalable, much more scalable than with printers that you're always having to modify or tweak. So if the whole theme of this live stream really is going to be printing earnestly for production. So yeah, we should also mention there's still no subscription fee even for the Prusa, even though it's a higher end machine and involves quite a bit more integration on our end. The basic version that lets you run your printer 24/7, there's no subscription fee for that software. Later on, we'll talk about the Pro version as well, but that's again, that's more for like highly commercial, large 3D printing setups.
Wow, we got John in the chat thing. He's ordered 7 Prushas.
Oh, he's already
There
ordered
we
seven.
go.
There we
He's
go.
got 2 Prushas right now with multi-material and 7 more.
Oh my god.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we can, I think it definitely, based on who's in the chat, it definitely makes sense to talk about the more heavily on the farm things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I
We've
mean,
also got Bruce Cooper says he runs a Prusa farm.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, please post questions and we'll do our best to answer them live. Like this is the best time for discussion.
And Robert Gardner says his wife says you guys both have very nice hair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, mine's gonna be cut off soon. It's planning to donate it, but and when I get my second vaccine and COVID is over, the hair is gone too.
Fair enough.
We'll have to do a haircut update.
Okay, yeah, live hair cutting on stream.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
The
scary.
top-down view for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk about how Quinly makes Prusa smart enough to run itself. And as Leah will be the one building, and as she builds, we'll field questions from chat, and I'll also dive into a couple of key points and some customer stories.
Mhm.
So the first step, and this is something that we're pretty proud of, is on our enders, because the setups are like, people mod the heck out of their
Yes.
enders, and there's so many setups. We've had to create like 24 different variations of firmware, and it can be a little bit challenging to
Yes, for
choose
sure.
which one does what. For the Prusa, the really exciting thing that we've done is, I'll just put up the video in the background as we talk about it, but we only use one version of firmware, and it's the MK3 firmware or the MK3S, depending on what printer you have, and it runs off the official Prusa version, so that you don't have to worry about modifying configs, which we know, and just speaking to our beta testers, modifying firmware configs
Yeah.
on a Prusa can be a bit of a headache.
That makes sense. I mean, even on like our old Quinly, I felt like it was scary to like do the first firmware update and everything, and I was like really scared that things would go wrong. So I'm really like happy that it's just like so easy for Prusa, at least. Like I literally did it yesterday. I never did it before.
Yeah.
So and I did it. So I mean, that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll always be, with Quinly for Prusa, we'll always be running off the official Prusa branch, and something that we worked really hard on was to pull any of the behavior changes out of firmware and into Quinly itself. So any sort of additional functionality we've managed to build right into Quinly, and you can stay on the stock firmware. It ends up being a really simple experience, but it was actually very, very hard to integrate. It was like a very difficult integration problem to solve. But in the end, it saves you time.
Yeah.
So of course, it's worth it. Yeah, so here's Leah just uploading it. So she downloaded the firmware from the official Prusa website. And she's using Prusa Slicer built-in firmware flasher. So she just plugs the Prusa into her computer, opens up the firmware flasher on Prusa Slicer, and then just hits flash, and it updates to the latest firmware. And that's it. Yeah,
that's literally it.
Literally it. Like it's super simple. And if you're already on the latest firmware, you don't even have to do this. So you would just plug the Quinly Pi right into the printer. Oh yeah, I should mention the Quinly for Prusa will become available on this stream at 6 p.m. So make sure to check the shop for it. And we're offering a special live stream discount, which you can see in the top corner here.
There.
So the pre-sale price is $100 off, and so that's from now until we start shipping out the Prusas. And the special stream sale gives you an additional 25, I think. Yeah. So it's $125 off total if you're watching the stream right now. Afterwards, it'll go just to 100, which is a pretty good discount,
Yeah,
I would
I
say.
mean, tell your friends to come watch the stream.
Yeah.
It's $100 off until we start shipping kits.
Yes. So dependent on how fast we ship out.
Yeah.
Which I will say from previous experience with the DIYs, they go out quite fast. I think we started shipping them about a week after, but I think for Prusas we're expecting it to be 3 or 4 weeks from today. Yeah, so we flashed the firmware, and now I'm going to switch over to show how simple we've also made the Raspberry Pi flashing process. So for Quinly, you will need a Pi that controls the printer, and the Pi itself will connect up either to your wireless network, and eventually with the rollout of the Pro, even you can connect it to the internet to control it remotely. And each Pi will have camera capability, which we'll talk more about later. But just to show you, we've spent a lot of time simplifying the install so that you can save more time running your machines. Here's actually the Pi image install. So there's this program that we link to in the manual called the Pi Imager. You just go in there, you select the image that we provide with the kit, you hit write, and then that'll write it to the SD card that's included with the kit on your computer. This is sped up, obviously. It doesn't write quite that fast. Usually takes about 10 minutes.
It's my movie magic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think you close it, and then you just put your Wi-Fi credentials on.
Yes, with the
which is this
WPA
file.
applicant.
Yeah, so hopefully Stephen did not record our actual Wi-Fi password. That would be bad. But yeah, you just copy this file over. And then once you've done that, save it, throw it onto the SD, and drop it.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So now your Raspberry Pi is completely configured to run Quinly on your Prusa. All you have to do once you built the kit is connect it up, and it'll show its little Wi-Fi thing on the LCD, and you'll just be able to view it from your browser. And we'll go through all this once Leah puts the kit together.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we got some other people in chat here. So Bruce Cooper says a bit more about his print farm. He has 14 Prusas running 24/7.
Nice.
And he does 24-hour batches. So 1 print per day on each printer.
Got it.
We've got Robert Gerdner talking about back failures is his like very annoying thing that he has to see all the time.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat. Maybe as Leah starts putting the kit together, we can go through and answer some questions.
That sounds good.
Bruce Cooper is asking about things like filament out. So that's one of those tools that we were mentioning at the beginning that we integrate Quinly with. So yes, things like filament out, things like auto x-axis alignment, and of course the Prusa's very tailored bed leveling system. Quinly integrates with all of those. So what's really awesome about the filament out is typically even though you have a filament out detector, you still have to check on the machine to see when it runs out. And one thing that we've learned with Quinly is that when you're printing 24/7, your filament runs out very, very often. And so what we've done is pulled in the filament sensor data so that Quinly knows to pause and go into a specific filament out state when your machine runs out of filament, and then you can see it in the dashboard, and we'll show this later. But you can you can see that in the dashboard. And while that's quite useful, even just for one printer, when you start to think about the applications within a print farm, what you can do is have prints that were originally queued to go onto a printer that's now out of filament can actually get redirected to other printers. And that's the kind of extended functionality I'm talking about, where Quinly makes use of these tools and then does a lot of the decision making that you normally would as a print operator. Yeah, maybe Steven, do you have any kind of thoughts on filament out?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've ever done a long print that's like 24 hours long and like 16 hours into it, you just run out of filament because you didn't plan for it properly or something. It's like the most annoying thing, and I'm just looking forward to be able to like have this automated system also support filament out. So like even when this printer is kind of running and you're not watching it all the time, it'll still tell you when the filament's out, and you won't need to like have to go and check all the time to see if you've still got filament. It'll just tell you when you need to replenish filament.
I think one of the nice, less obvious benefits of that as well is a lot of time and energy is spent, like, I mean, I can personally attest to this, but as a print operator, without filament out, without Quinly 24/7 printing, I would have to sometimes, I'd have to spend time and energy thinking about how do I line up my prints so that it uses this spool of filament perfectly. And a lot of the people we've spoken to have this exact same issue, where it's not really something that ends up getting costed into the final part, but it is something that takes up your time, is just how do I design batches so that they use exactly, so I can run 5 batches per kilo, or how do I design my part queue so that it does exactly 20 prints per spool. And that does take like mental processing power and thinking and planning, and it's actually a lot of time gets sucked up by those small, very simple but very frequent decisions that you have to make as a print operator. And so things like that are where Quinly comes in, where, well, you're printing 24/7 and it's got filament out integration, so it can run whatever you throw at it, and it will notify you when the filament has run out. And then in the case of print farms, which is a feature that's coming out later towards the end of the summer on the Pro version, you can even have it make decisions for you where if the filament out is on this machine, you can redirect priority jobs to other printers in your network. And so I think that kind of thing, when a human does it, and when I've personally done it, it takes up a lot of time, because otherwise you can't plan or schedule for these things, because exactly how much filament gets used each time it's not 100% certain, at least until you start printing. And if you're printing many different things, that can be quite a big challenge. So that's basically the mission with Quinly is have it make these operator decisions in the same way you would, and it's these very frequent but sort of open-ended decisions that just are I mean, frankly, are a bit of a waste of time. Quinly will take care of all of that for you so that you can focus on just producing parts or designing parts.
Yeah, actually, I've made slicing so much easier after using Quinly. Like I have one profile that I use, and usually my options are print orientation and supports on or off. That's all I touch usually.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes slicing things so much easier for production.
Yeah, you end up saving so much time because you don't have to think about actually running the machine, that you can work on optimizing other portions of your workflow and portions of your workflow that are much more productive, like modeling or slicing or preparing files.
We got a question from Media Dog. So, how does the build plate work? Do you adhere it still?
That's a good question.
Do you wanna
So
show it?
sure, yeah. On the Prusa, what we found is that the Prusa's magnet system is strong and consistent enough with spring steel plates that you can actually adhere the vapor bed to one of these plates um, without risking it moving during heat up cycles, which is typically the problem with other print surfaces and other like magnetic build systems, is that the repeated thermal cycling would cause it to move, but because of the way the Prusa is set up with the magnets underneath the heated plate, there's much less risk of that. And in our testing, we found it to be consistent enough that you can just put the vapor on any sort of spring steel plate. So that is now the recommended install. And for those of you asking about whether the inductive probe still works with the vapor on top of it, it does. There's plenty of clearance. The vapor surface is quite thin, and we've made sure that it works with the Pinda and Super Pinda probes. And something that we're testing as well is like with clone Prusas as well, with whatever probes they use. It's possible to use the vapor on a steel sheet. Yeah, someone mentioned in chat that it's a full-time assistant for less than $1 a day. Actually, I think that'd probably be a good segue into the ROI and costing things that we've got set up here, our stories, I guess. So I have 3 examples that we can go through. One of our customers, Jeremy Owens, we've spoken about him before. He uses Ender, but it's kind of this story of how Quinly changed the way he printed. He was using an Ender to print custom display mounts for tools, like power tools for sales. And he found that if he had these 3D printed displays in his truck, I think since he installed them, his sales increased 4-fold, which is pretty amazing. And so he's been trying to outfit as many trucks with these custom displays as he can. But if you know anything about like power tools, there are dozens and dozens of bits and dozens of different tools that you have to support. So he was printing a lot of parts. And before he got Quinly, he was using an Ender 3 and had printed, I believe it took him about a year to print 200 parts because he wasn't at home, he was always on the road, and so he'd only have a couple days a week to work with the printer and print those parts. But since he got Quinly, he's managed to basically exceed the previous year of printing in 2 weeks. And you would think, well, I mean, that's awesome. He's been printing 24/7. But what's really interesting is you would think somebody as busy as that, who's only got a couple weeks or a couple days out of a week to work on their machine, wouldn't really have time to run more than one printer. Since then, I think he's purchased 2 additional printers, and that's because not only did Quinly increase his throughput by being able to run it 24/7, but it reduced the amount of time he had to spend with the machine, so much so that he now had time to run 2 additional printers. So I like that story a lot because it's a demonstration of just how much of a bottleneck a human operator is when it comes to running 3D printers. And this is obviously something, when I started working on Quinly 5 years ago, something that I noticed immediately and wanted to start working on. But it is some of the consequences of automating are very non-obvious, and you actually end up saving far more time than you think. There's also a story.
Well, before we get into
Yeah,
that,
sure.
we're at a special time in the stream right now.
Oh, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Yes, the two things are happening now. The Quinly is going, the Quinly for Prusa is going live in the store, and we'll also be picking winners from our Instagram giveaway. And so I expect to hear back from um, our social media manager for who the winner is, and we'll call them out on the stream in the next couple minutes. But yeah, the product should be live on the store now, so if you want to grab it with the special stream discount, that's $25 on $100 off. Go to the site. It's at 3dq.com. Yeah, I mean, Stephen, maybe how since you started using Quinly on your printers, I know you've recently purchased more printers at home, like outside of work, right?
After getting Quinly, well, actually, after getting Quinly, I stopped using my other printers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have like 3 other printers, and they're all just collecting dust. Because it's not worth using them when I can just use Quinly.
I see.
Yeah.
I wonder, that's like a very interesting endorsement. But it's because the one that you have outfitted, and this is something that people constantly tell us, is once they outfit it, it's so easy to use this printer because you literally don't have to think about it. You just send your files to it. That it almost becomes a hassle going back to a more manual system, right? Yeah, we tend to speak very, very often with our customers, and actually they drive a lot of the features that we implement in our software. For example, the camera functionality, which is actually releasing tomorrow, in case you were waiting for that, was so highly requested, we actually bumped it up in our software development schedule, so that you could have remote monitoring of your prints. And speaking of like, Prusa gives you a lot of tools to calibrate your printer, and that keep the Prusa itself running, and then Quinly Automation integrates into those tools and runs them automatically so that you don't have to. Leah, who's just about done putting the kit together now, is actually working on an extension to our PyCam and webcam support, which will not only which will supplement basically the calibration tools that Prusa provides by also offering monitoring tools during and post print.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Do you want? I actually uploaded some stuff to the drive if you want to look at them. I know you haven't seen it yet.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, it's in.
Do you know where it might be?
I know exactly where it is. It just you have to go through a bunch of folders.
That is awesome.
It's in our R&D folder.
Okay, I have to make sure not to expose anything
Don't
top
expose
secret here.
anything.
Got our secrets in there.
Okay, software R&D.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stream failure detection. And then there should be a test images folder, and the ones that are labeled detect dash something are all the ones that you can look at.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
So what Leah's been working on is a failure detection model that's similar to things like Spaghetti Detective, except the interesting thing is we're designing it with automation in mind. So this failure detection model is not just going to detect failures, but it's also going to, when the pro version of the actual full farm software comes out, it's also going to, Quinly will respond to these failures in a way where, for example, maybe a printer goes down and it's like an unrecoverable failure where the operator needs to come in. Quinly can then, obviously based on your configuration, Quinly can then make a decision to reroute jobs to other printers in your print farm that have the correct material set up. And so we're super excited about that. And one of the really cool things that Leah's been working on with this failure detection project is because we have automated machines, she's developed ways of creating automated failures on these machines.
What
And
everybody wants.
yeah, she's created software that generates hundreds of different failure prints. And we're taking photos of that and training the model based on that. And
Yeah.
it's all like randomized and super cool. Do you want to talk about it while I pull up these
Yeah,
images?
sure. So basically I think there's at least like 6 or 7 scripts, and each of them has like a different kind of failure mode that is pretty common, I assume. So like spaghetti, layer shifts,
Under extrusion.
under extrusion, over extrusion, even though over extrusion is, I guess, I feel like less common, but still, you might as well.
Yeah.
You might as well tag it and things like that. And it allows you to basically randomly select a layer for it where you want it to fail. You can either like tell it to fail at a certain layer or randomly select it just based on how many layers there are. And then it tells it to do some sort of motion in the G code depending on what type of failure it is. So if it's a layer shift, then like shifting the entire like coordinate system kind of over a certain amount, and that can also be randomly generated, like how much do you want it, which direction. So that's pretty cool. And then for spaghetti, like it kind of lifts a bit, so you'll have a bunch of spaghetti everywhere and things like that. So it's been pretty interesting. And if is it showing yet? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's showing.
Okay.
These are the very first results. So
Yeah.
this was just one printer doing automated failures and automated data capture.
Yeah, this was literally me just like seeing like if I could set up everything properly, and I think I literally loaded like 60 images in, and usually you need like 10,000, but it's
Yeah.
actually doing like pretty
Pretty
it
well.
can do spaghetti basically. I mostly have given it spaghetti so far, which is why it's like really thinking everything is spaghetti, but
Yeah.
it's like still doing something, and it's promising.
Oh, this
I
one.
think. Yeah, that one just like not at all spaghetti.
But that's highly impressive for only 16
yeah, I was so
images.
surprised. I didn't even check how many I actually threw in there because I only annotated like a few so far.
Right.
So
And so actually I have just before we came in to do the stream, I got a package full of pie cams
that's what I want.
that we plan to outfit on our we have a 50 machine farm here, and we plan on just outfitting a ton of them with pie cams and just generating tons and tons of training data, and also trying to come up with a program where people can submit their own print failures
that would be really
as training
cool.
data as well.
Everything that makes the model more robust will be very helpful, just because like background lighting and like I guess even just the background itself and things like that, different colors of filament will all make it more robust. So it would be really awesome to get other people's like surroundings in the background.
Yeah.
If that might be a little creepy, but
Yeah.
not in a creepy way.
But going back to the main point of the software, like Quinly isn't just something that, ties G code together and does just looping G code. It's actually a full end-to-end solution, and we tried to stress this a lot. It's meant to save your time as an operator, not just running the printers, but doing things like quality control, making decisions about your print farm. It also saves a lot of time in terms of being much more predictable, because monitoring solutions exist for print farms, but at the end of the day, there's still a human operator that has to take that data and make decisions about how to run the machines, and then needs to dispatch people to check on and maintain those machines physically.
Exactly.
Whereas now, building on the excellent tool set that the Prusa gives you, we're able to automate even some of this, like calibration issues. We're able to leverage Prusa's tools for that and do that automatically. And then we're also able to, with the 24/7, obviously that takes care of things like scheduling and actually being physically present to run your machine. Yeah, and it looks like Leah's actually finished building it. So
Yeah.
that was quite a bit quicker than we had planned.
Yeah.
So you can see, like, we spend a lot of time on the hardware and the software to make it very,
Easy.
very easy to install.
Yes.
It's also something I want to say is it's hard to make something look easy.
Yes.
It took a long time to get it so
Yes.
easy.
We've gone through many iterations. We have actually 8 beta testers that we sent Prusa kits to over 2 months ago now, that we've been working with, and they've been testing the software, testing the hardware. They're always bugging me to fix bugs for them, which we do, which we're working on. Yeah, so all of that kind of comes together into an end-to-end automation package for your Prusa. Yeah, do you want to put the bed on and get it calibrated and going? I guess while Leah's doing that, I can talk about one of the other cases. So this is a really cool time lapse that we take, and it's going to be coming out as a video pretty soon. But it was an internal test for running a Prusa manually next to running a Prusa in an automated way. And what we did was we looked at, okay, let's actually quantify the operator time required to run one of these machines as close to 24/7 as I can. And so what we did was we took a model of Thingiverse that has a lot of pieces. If you want to print it yourself, it's called the, shoot, I have it right here. The lift pod. It's like a camera mount. Yeah, it's a super cool model. Like, it's very useful for photography, which is why I wanted to print it. But it's also got, I think it's got about 18 pieces in it. And so what we did was we took a Prusa that was just manual stock Prusa, and we took an automated Prusa with Quinly and ran a side-by-side comparison. If I, as an operator, wanted to run this manual Prusa, just a single printer, as close to 24/7 as possible, how much time do I have to spend running the machine?
Yeah.
And one of the results of this was I basically spent, it was 2 12-hour days, and by 12-hour days, I mean I was around to be available to maintain the printer for 12 hours each day. And on the manual side, so I ended up spending 5 hours directly working with the machine. And now you have to consider this scenario is parts that we haven't printed before. So you can think of it as maybe you got a new client that needs you to print a bunch of parts. These aren't known G codes. And so I had to spend about 5 hours by the printer watching, removing parts, cleaning the PEI bed, or just waiting around, because in some cases I couldn't really step away from the printer because then it would just be sitting idle. So I had to be in the room with the machine. And so that was like 5 hours direct time, and then over the period of printing there was 19 hours of printer downtime, which is like when I had to sleep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Like, so I would try to start a print as late as I could, and then I would go to sleep, but then the printer would be down during that sleep time. So despite spending, you know, allocating 20 hours to be available for the printer and having 5 hours directly on the printer, I still ended up with 19 hours of downtime. So if you like, let's break that down from a production perspective, because there are 3 places that time and potentially money is being lost.
You might want to flip camera views back.
Oh yeah, am I on a weird view? Oh yeah, it just didn't replay.
Still little.
Sure, no worries. Thanks. I was hoping it would just keep playing in the background. Yeah, so there are 3 places that money is being lost. One is that someone has to be present whether or not they're directly working on the machine, they have to be present for about, in my case, to get that whole job done, I was present 12 hours on each day. But in terms of direct cost, those 5 hours of my time, assuming I made something like, $20 an hour, that's still $100 that are lost.
Yeah.
And most people, I think, that run 3D printers wouldn't say that they make $20 an hour. Generally, it's from the people we've spoken to, it's more like 40. But even assuming maybe you hired someone like an intern specifically to run the machine, that's still $100 cost right there. That's gone over those 2 days. And then the 19 hours of printer downtime is actually a massive opportunity cost loss, because with Quinly, your printer would be printing during that time, but without it, it's just sitting there idle.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of money that could be made that's lost there.
Yeah. And I feel like people can say like, oh yeah, I would just do a really long print during that time, but that just means you have to always have your long print at that time. And what if you only have small prints?
That's another thing. Like you can overcome that downtime, but then you have to spend time elsewhere generating batches and then planning around those batches. And that in itself can end up taking up a lot of time. It just sort of displaces it from the actual printer operation to this preparation that you have to do. One of the interesting things, again, that a lot of our Quinly users have told us is that ever since they switched, they don't really need to batch anymore. And I think, again, that's like one of those really interesting, non-obvious consequences of it. But batching takes a lot of time to prepare, and there's a higher risk of failures during batching and lost filament and lost time. And when your printer just runs itself 24/7, the purpose behind batching kind of goes away.
It does.
And so you now have all of this additional like non-direct free time freed up. So yeah, like that's kind of where it goes. Prusa, and what's awesome about the Prusa is the Prusa as a printer, as a base printer, saves you time already. That's why people buy them, because they're built so well and they will run really consistently. And once you put it together, you kind of know what to expect. And then Quinly on a Prusa just takes that to the next level, because now all of the ancillary time that you would have spent managing your print farm is also getting taken off your plate by Quinly. And like if you cost out the cost of a Quinly kit running your printer 24/7 for a year, and these kits are built to run well over a year, but let's just say let's just say a single year, right? That's 5 cents per hour versus your $20 to $40 per hour. There's almost no contest, and the Quinly doesn't have to sleep like you do. So you don't have to worry about, shifts or planning for sleep or making your entire life revolve around production on a Prusa.
Yeah, you don't need to feel bad either. Quinly isn't sentient.
It's not sentient yet. So,
oh no.
Yeah.
That's a whole other issue then.
Yeah.
We have some news. The Instagram giveaway winner has been chosen.
Oh, okay. Let's announce
I
that.
think they're in chat.
They're in chat too?
Whoa,
Oh, this is
even
exciting.
better.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see who it is. Oh, what? That's awesome. Robert Girdner, congrats. Yeah.
Random draw, yes, really.
You won the random draw. That's pretty awesome, actually.
That's insane.
And he said he'd print the Prusa Mini base upgrades with the filament. That's the cool print, yeah. So our Instagram giveaway, definitely follow the Instagram because we plan on doing a lot more. But that was for some really nice Prusa mint. Yeah, and we plan to do more in the future. So check it out. But congratulations, Robert. That's like pretty awesome that you managed to get it while in chat, while watching. Does the hot end extrude a strip in the front of each print? Looks like it extrudes off the vapor sheet. Doesn't this get wiped off with the nozzle somehow if it gets stuck? That's a good question. So what we've done when the way we've set up the purge line on the Prusa is such that it'll purge in front of the sheet and actually use the edge of the sheet to cut it off of the nozzle. So you'll see, it's kind of hard to see in the time lapse, but when the real-time videos come out, you'll see that it cuts off and it just builds up there. And over time, enough builds up that it just falls down. And that is that wipe cycle that we've added. We've tested it to work over dozens and dozens of hours. So it's not something that will eventually end up in your print. And this is kind of research that we've brought over from our Ender production, where we've had to look at creative ways of doing wiping and sorry, not wiping, creative ways of doing priming before the print starts, because priming does actually become an interesting issue with automation. Looks like the Prusa's come alive.
It's not ready.
Idling.
Yeah, it's going into idle state.
We do have a few more questions. I think we should probably
Yeah, let's go
before
through them
getting into the
and
prints.
then put the Prusa.
Yeah, so there was
going.
one question from Media Dog asking about Prusa 2.5. So first of all, can it work on the 2.5? And then the follow-up is, what if he replaces the controller board with the same as the Mark III?
If the controller board is the same and you update it to the 3.10 version of the firmware, it should work fine. It's more reliant on the 3.10 version of the firmware being present on the machine, which is the latest release from Prusa.
Yeah, I guess part of that too is that the tilt frame, we may need to design a different bracket.
Yeah.
Because right now it uses the 30-30 extrusions. But that's something that we'll look into doing. You know, especially if it seems that a lot of people want to do this on a 2.5 printer.
Yeah. Software-wise, there shouldn't be any differences. And a lot of people actually do end up, in some cases, putting their own solution together for the tilt frame. What's the actual largest model that can be printed, that can have contact with the bed? We test, so we've done full bed prints. There's actually a video on our site for the Ender, which is a really flat 20 by 20 centimeter print that's, I think, only 5 millimeters in height. So the vapor bed can work with like complete coverage. Yeah, I would definitely recommend going on our site, and under the Quinly for Ender product, there's a GIF. Or I guess I could just
show them.
Honestly, I could just pull it up. It's
Flex
yeah.
on.
Why am I telling? I'll find it myself for you.
There we go.
But yeah, it works on very, very large base prints. We've specifically made this bed to work that way. Let's see, 3dq.com. Okay.
There.
There it is. Okay, let's just switch over. Oh, we're in the way. Here, it'll cycle in a second, but you can see it works with extremely large flat parts.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was really nice. It's always like, even now I still find it surprising, like, what the heck? It works with these really flat parts too. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a sense of like the size of the parts. You could fill up the whole bed if you want. One thing you have to consider is like, if you have any attachments on your nozzle, making sure that it doesn't come down into your print. Yeah, hopefully that answers it. Did you have any more questions from chat, Steven?
Yeah, I think one last question would be to talk about multi-material.
Okay, so for multi-material, we have an MMU available, and it's something that we're testing with, but it may not be released right on launch. So it might be in a later update. But it is something that we are testing with on the Prusa, and we have one on hand. It's actually really, really generously loaned to us by one of our beta testers for the Prusa. Jack sent us his MMU so that we could test with it and develop on it. Because it's very difficult to get one. For some reason, the supply is really low, or it was at the time.
Oh yeah, Steph's actually wondering how many layers the flat part was, like how thick it was.
It would have been about 15. But we do have videos on our Instagram of parts that are less or 1.8 millimeters thick, which is more like 5 or 6 layers.
Yeah.
We were printing ear savers for COVID, those things that you put behind your mask. And those were a really good demo of how flat prints you could get. One portion of those ear saver prints is just 1 layer, I think.
I think it's 2.
The middle is 2.
It's like 0.5 millimeter thick.
Yeah, and then the border is like 1.8 millimeters, right? Or the text or something.
The text is 1.8, and the rest of it's I think 2 layers. Maybe part of it is 3 because of the border.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very, very flat. We recommend 1 millimeter minimum thickness, but you could try 0.5. It's just that it's very flat. Like it should work. You just have to make sure that your nozzle is very level with the bed because you don't want scratching or anything. Yeah, Robert says, of course it was Jack. Jack's actually been extremely helpful with the Prusa development. Okay, let's move on to actually sending a print to this thing. So yeah, Leah put it together super quick.
That was, yes. I
It
thought
was
it would
only
be
like-
longer than
no,
that.
it
I
was
feel like
only
the
like 20
DIY kit
minutes.
was like much longer, or maybe I just blacked out. Like, I don't know.
Oh, God. No, it only took you like 20 minutes,
There we go.
which is pretty awesome.
Do I need to do, I don't know how to do the Z calibration thing.
Oh, do you want to come in and do that, Steven?
I have actually not done it. Do you want to try it?
Okay. I'll do it. but
Dominic did it and I was like,
you
I
guys-
trust him.
Roll with this stuff.
You guys will have to talk. I'll do it though.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, she's put it together, and we just need to
Oh, we're
calibrate
gonna-
to the
we're
new
gonna-
Z height.
Yeah, can we put the different view on to see what you're doing?
Yeah. I'll just put it on just the webcam, I guess.
Yeah, so a couple things about the vapor bed is
Tethers.
so they add 1 millimeter of thickness to the Prusa spring steel plate, and that's not really enough to mess with the inductive probe. If you've installed the inductive probe correctly on the Prusa, you likely won't need to adjust it. You'll just need to change the Z offset. So this is what Mateo is doing right now. You'll be doing the test print that comes along with the Prusa firmware, and it allows you to fine tune that first layer Z offset.
Very cool. I saw that it looks really interesting when it comes out. I just don't know how to do it.
Actually, can you switch views? I want to show off some of the changes that we've made now that the kit is assembled. Hit
Okay.
transition in the middle there. One of the things you'll notice, one of the most apparent things about the kit is actually we've moved the LCD up top, and we found that this, well, your parts don't get in front of your LCD.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we should also show off some of the design done with the actual, like what those ramps were, all those ramps that you had set up. If you switch back, I'll show them off.
Do I just do transition?
Yeah. So at the front here, there's what are we calling this? Like the sled?
I was gonna
The
call
plow.
this
The plow.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, we found that without this, your parts would end up falling into the front section of the Prusa. So what we've done is added these ramps here so the parts can't fall through. And then we've also got this plow. So when the nozzle guides the part forward, you can see that in no circumstance is there really a hole except for at this most extreme forward position. And one of the fixes that we came up with, one of our beta testers, was this front incline that guides the parts off to either side. And so since we've installed it this way, we haven't had any parts kind of get jammed in here or stuck anywhere in the printer. So that's one of those small things, but that actually really helps with the automation, is just not having parts get stuck in your machine.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you can see we've really tried to think about like every possible failure case. Where can things go wrong, both physically and in software, and how do we make sure that Quinly delivers on a very, very reliable experience? Because if the kit was not reliable, that would only cause more problems in the end. Even if it was only reliable, 95% of the time, that 5% risk that it would add is not something you want to deal with. So we want to make sure that, or Quinly is designed in a way to improve the reliability of the already very reliable Prusa printers, and to make sure that, well, everything it does is to save you the hassle of having to think about or deal with running your machine. Steph likes to say that Quinly makes your Prusa smart enough to run itself. Do you want to switch? Oh no, you're in this view. You're good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to do the Z calibration.
Okay.
So as Steven mentioned, it levels right through the vapor bed.
Actually, Leah, do you mind turning the Pi off for this?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So just going to do a purge. And this is one of those built-in tools that Prusa provides that we were talking about. So now we can do our Z adjustment. I'm just going to keep lowering the nozzle until it's done. And this is identical to how you would have done it when you first got your Prusa. And luckily, it's extremely easy to do.
Yeah, someone's asking about the vapor plate. So people are talking about, just throw away the bed scraper and chuck it in the isopropyl.
Yes, yeah, you don't want to use either of those on the vapor plate.
Yeah, that would be super sad.
Yeah, and it's engineered specifically not to use any of those.
Yeah, actually that's a good point. Like this bed doesn't require you to clean it between each use. You might need to clean it once every 1 to 2 weeks, just with like soap and water. There's a specific soap that we like to recommend. But yeah, this kind of bed doesn't need as much like babysitting as other kinds of beds.
Yeah.
And it needs no adhesive, no glue sticks. There's never going to be a need to scrape the part off. Just a really good build surface. And this is because it's completely unique. No other build surface is the same as the vapor.
Yeah, it's like a really, really, really good PEI but you can also print like a wider range of materials on it, like ABS, PLA, PETG, ASA, what else? Pretty much everything except for TPU and TPE.
Yeah.
We've even done polypropylene on these ones.
Actually, like Chris's basement did a small part in TPE and it actually fell off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Maybe we need to do more testing with TPE then. All right. So yeah, you can power it on and then switch the view back.
Okay.
And so when the Pi boots up, Quinly will detect the Prusa, see what's on it, and by that I mean like things like the MMU, it will pick those kinds of things up. And once it's all connected and once it connects to the network as well, oh, I see it just rebooted up here on the LCD. It'll display the IP address, and then with the basic, you'll just be able to enter this IP and view the website. And so we'll show you. We'll send a print job through our current UI, and then we'll show the new UI, which is planned to coincide with the shipment of the Prusa kits. Okay, rebooting.
I feel like Prusas are so quiet.
They're super quiet.
Don't know
It's
when
awesome.
it's on.
It's awesome because like with Quinly, I don't look at my printers anymore. And then with Prusa, I don't hear my printers anymore.
That's what I like.
All right, we got the IP. Should I
Yeah,
switch
you
back?
should
All right.
come back. Okay. These wires, though.
These wires
You go forwards, I think.
in front of the chair.
Yes. Climb.
Oh my. Amazing. Keep us posted on questions, Steven.
Yeah, okay, well, let's update you on some stuff. So Poseidon was asking peak works on the paper bed. I told him that I really want to try printing it. I don't think we've had the opportunity yet.
It's very expensive.
It's expensive, and you need like a special printer, and enclosures that are really good, stuff like that. But that being said, if any of you guys have the ability to print peak, like,
Let us know. Yeah. Yeah. If it destroys the bed, we'll send you a replacement.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Could you read? Oh no, you've got it open.
Yeah,
here.
sorry.
Okay, awesome. Let's just switch over to sending the print then. All right, here we are.
Beautiful.
So here is the Prusa, and here's our drive. Oh, you can actually see all the models I uploaded for that time lapse we were looking at earlier. Yeah, here it is. Idle in its idle form.
I think it's Prusa XY. It's the second to last.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Send it over.
It's really quick too, I think. I think it's like 15 minutes.
Oh, wait, one thing. Oh no, it picked it up fine. Okay, I thought we might have had to reboot the Prusa after saving the offset, but we're actually fine.
There we go.
I forgot we changed that.
We've made it even better.
The software changes on a daily basis. Still, as we're getting these last things in. Yeah, but this is the old UI. I want to show you guys the new UI, which is
It looks
very,
really dope.
very, very dope. Very exciting. Yeah, in case you haven't seen it before, because I noticed we have a lot of new people in chat. So this is the new UI we've got planned and are putting together. So this one, just to give a brief overview, we're adding
File system.
We've got this file system, yeah, where basically the point of this new UI is all your production G code is kept in here, and all your organization is in the same place as where you send your prints. Part of this is we've used Google Docs or Google Drive as an internal production drive, and we've honestly changed our folder structure like 4 times over the last year, and it just gets unwieldy and it's difficult crossing platforms with files. So that has prompted us, and so have the first kind of Quinly users have prompted us to set up organization within the software itself. So once you upload your files in here, you can select them and then send multiple files at once to the queue. And then that lets you pick quantities. And of course, this would be more advanced on the Pro version where you have many printers connected. But in this one, you select your files, pick the quantities, and send it over to the queue. Once you go into the queue, you'll see on the right, the first one gets picked up by the 3D printer. You can see it's printing, and then the other 2 are here. And there's going to be drag and drop reprioritization. Yeah, yeah, and this also gives you at a glance what is what's coming up next to your printer so that you can see like all the scheduled production, rearrange it, edit things, all from this one screen. And as an operator, you'll only really be using the files screen and the queue screen. But of course, everyone wants to actually see what their printer is up to. So there's a printer overview screen that's got a bit more detail. It has some controls. It has things like the camera feed, the live temperatures, direct access to the control board so that you can send G-code directly. And this screen kind of tells you at a glance for each printer what's going on, what does it have coming up, what is it finished, what is it currently doing, and then in the currently doing theme of things, there's the live camera will be here. And then once Leah's machine learning project is ready, that will replace this panel, and it will give you things like level, like failure detection threshold, type of failure, that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's kind of, or that is what'll be coming out for the basic. So you'll have access to all of this stuff here in the basic. And then Quinly Pro will be for managing many, many printers from a single screen. So now your file system will stay mostly the same, but your queue will actually dispatch to multiple different printers based on what materials are loaded in what printer, what states the printer is in. So going back to that integration with Prusa's diagnostic tools, if one printer ends up going out of filament, you'll have the option to reroute its jobs to other machines in your farm.
That would be really awesome.
Yeah, so that way that queue doesn't just get stuck once if a printer goes down. And the same thing for Leah's failure detection. If an unrecoverable failure is detected, the machine can go into a needs attention state.
Yeah.
And then again, the jobs in the queue can be redirected to other machines in your farm automatically. And you can just imagine, like, if you were running a manual print farm, redirecting jobs is not an easy thing. It involves copying files to different SD cards and running around between different printers.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things. And I should mention, the Quinly tech is quite old, and we used to, before Quinly even came about, we used to build enterprise automation solutions. And so what we've done with Quinly is it's actually the core automation was pulled out of our farm management software that we were offering a few years ago. And now we're pulling more and more from that and building it back up in a very user-friendly way, an end user-friendly way, building it back up into farm management and farm automation software again. So a lot of these features that I'm talking about with job redirecting and assigning to particular printers is actually already complete. It just needs to be rolled into Quinly. So in terms of timeline, we're trying to put the Pro version together for the end of the summer, and that would give you the option to control many machines from a single screen.
Yeah, I really like that you can like start with one and then you can build up to how many you want, basically.
Yeah.
That's definitely like less scary for I feel like most customers.
Yes. Yeah, and a really interesting story is that we keep hearing from people who have used Quinly, like Jeremy Owens, but it's happened with a bunch of people. Well, even Kevin Flipsaw. Since he got Quinly, he's bought more printers and put Quinly on more machines because it takes care of all these mundane tasks for you and time-consuming tasks for you. You have the capacity to run more machines. It is very, very the goal is to be very, very efficient.
For sure.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of that efficiency, I think we had one more user story to talk about. Oh, this was somebody we spoke to.
Change the camera view to show off the print.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me split cam. Is this better?
I'll tell you in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You can't see.
I can actually walk around it.
Or
I
yeah.
know it's gonna be better.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the clients we've been speaking to quite a lot recently had a very big production job that he wishes he had Quinly for, but he didn't hear about us until afterwards.
Sad.
Not to laugh at his misery. But so he was printing thousands of parts. It was I think it was a 4,000 part order, and the order value was $11,000.
Yeah.
And the way he had gone around doing high volumes of parts is by batching them, which is what most people resort to.
Yeah, of course.
And out of the 4,000 parts, good parts, he had 550 failed parts. And that seems like really high, like 550 failed prints. That's a lot. But actually, he was printing batch prints. It was actually only 14 batch failures. But that shows the inherent risk of batching and why, as a workaround, yes, it improves your uptime, but it does increase your risk quite a lot.
Yeah.
So only 14 print failures actually resulted in 550 parts being tossed.
So much loss.
Yeah. And this was being done on 4 printers, so 4,000 parts on 4 printers. He had estimated 31 days at his current uptime. Again, he was running them manually at the time. The actual time ended up taking 42 days.
Yeah.
So that's 11 additional days, which means that in terms of machine cost and time cost, you're losing 25% basically with those 11 additional days. And he says out of the $11,000 order value, he lost $2,000 to labor and failures. And that's like direct labor as a result of those failures. I don't know if that counts the money lost in those 11 extra days.
Yeah.
Because with him, so let's say he was running completely optimally, and he makes 11,000 every 30 days, or let's say 10,000 every 30 days, right? In those additional, I'm just gonna pull up the calculator because I don't want to get numbers wrong. In the 11 days that he lost to direct manual labor and batch failures, if he had a more consistent solution at 11,000 per 30 days times 11, he could have made $4,000 at that rate, assuming everything else was the same.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. That's the so not only was there $2,000 cost to the failures, but there was also a $4,000 cost to those 11 extra days that were lost.
Insane.
Yeah, so a total of $6,000. And Quinly, for 4 printers, if they're Prusas, is only about $1,100. So that is like one-fifth of that. So
Yeah,
if
that's
he had
definitely worth.
Quinlys, it would have paid itself off in less than a week. So that's, yeah, again, in terms of ROI, the Quinly, as soon as you touch your machine a couple of times, it basically pays off the Quinly. Going back to my case where I spent 5 hours directly running the machine and had 20 hours open to watch and manage the machine, if I was at work, I would say maybe my productivity during those 20 hours, or yeah, 20 hours was maybe 75%. So we
Yeah.
could bill for those hours plus the 5 hours of direct labor. And if I was earning $20 an hour, that's $180. That's already in 2 days paid off half the kit cost of a Quinly
That's so
kit.
true.
Yeah, so it's actually like really, really multiplicative, um, because Quinly saves you time on multiple dimensions.
Yeah, it's not just like an upgrade to make your printer better. It's actually an investment to give you more time, to make you more money.
Yeah, yeah, it's like an upgrade to you as an operator, because like you can become a super operator. If all your printers have Quinlys, it's like having dozens of minions running your machines,
True.
and you can just observe them. For those of you who have like power fantasies over your 3D printers, you can just view them from one location and only tend to them when when they need to be. And going back to the new UI, something that's going to be available for Pro is pulling all of the machine states and Leah's failure detection and quality control into a single dashboard that will constantly report to you, here's what printers need attention. We're noticing inconsistencies on machines 1, 5, and 7. You might want to do some kind of maintenance to them.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Just watching and doing consistency observations, which is pretty infeasible even if you hired humans to do it.
Yeah.
You can't have a person watch every single part. And I
That'd be
think,
so sad.
yeah, and I think most operations are not large enough to have people counting every single part and tracking when in time these issues are occurring. And yeah, I guess going back to that as well, the Quinly that can run a printer for you for a year is only 5 cents an hour, which is vastly lower than, you know, $20 or to $40 an hour. So it pays itself off very, very quickly. Quinly software. Any questions, Stephen, that we can go?
We had some questions. I was just answering them
Oh yeah,
through
but
chat.
I think it's worth answering them on the stream for those who aren't reading
True.
chat.
Yeah. So someone was asking about like is Quinly Octoprint or what's the difference?
That's a good question. Quinly, we built from scratch because Octoprint, we had looked at Octoprint like way back when I'd started building this. Um, but Quinly's entire feature set and the way it's designed from an architectural standpoint is actually for print farms. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, we had Quinly for print farms before we had it for individual machines, or we had a prototypical version of Quinly for print farms. And we used it to run the 45 printer print farm we had in-house at the time. So it's on a fundamental level been designed differently in order to scale very easily to large quantities of printers. With Octoprint at the time, I guess from a development perspective, it would have required so much refactoring that it was simply easier to start building from scratch. And it was much faster in the end as well. Octoprint is really good for remote monitoring printers that are still kind of manual and that you plan on interacting with a lot, whereas Quinly is really being built from the ground up to so that you don't have to look at your printer ever. Like we hate looking at printers here. We don't want to see them unless they have parts ready for us. Yeah. Otherwise, stay in your room and print things for me.
Another quick question was, does it work with all Mark III versions?
That's a good question. It should work with all Mark III versions, the MK3, 3S, and 3S Plus. Upgraded MK, like upgraded from MK. I think there was an upgrade from MK2 to MK3. Um, and potentially some of the MK 2.5s as well, if they use the same controller and if they're on the 3.10 firmware. The only thing is that, as Stephen mentioned, on the MK2s, the base is different, so we'd have to design a different mounting thing that people could potentially print for themselves. What else do we have?
For some more chat questions.
Sure.
Uh,
Can talk about printing face shields as a single operator, doing 1,000 face shields.
oh yeah, that's a common one. People tend to say that they've also had this issue where they tried to do a bunch of face shields during COVID.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people. I did a bunch of face shields during COVID. And one of the worst things about printing face shields is just having to be next to your printer and resetting it every 40 minutes. Because I was so proud of this. I got my print time down to like 23 minutes, and it was so fast. But like the sad thing is that I had to go to my printer every like 23 minutes to restart the print, and I didn't want to do that. Like I was available because I was working at home at the time, but it just kind of interrupted me every 23 minutes. And I mean, I work for 3DQ, so sooner or later I got a Quinly of my own. And yeah, I never need to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's I guess our like internal at 3DQ test was we had a large print job for a few thousand face shields for a local university, and one of the things we used that for was to test, okay, we've got all these machines set up in our print farm, like what is our actual uptime? And we did this 1,000-hour challenge. So it was 1,000 hours of printing over on 9 3D printers. These were Ender 3s that had Quinly on them. And we wanted to quantify, okay, with Quinly, how much operator time will it take to run 1,000 hours of printing? And so essentially, I think we printed 997 shields, was it?
I think it was in the 980s or something.
Oh yeah, I think 987. So like 950 to 1,000 face shields. It was 1,000 hours of printing on the dot. That's when we cut it off. And when we went back and analyzed and counted up all the operator time that was required with the Quinly outfitted printers, there were only 2 things that the operator needed to do. One was replacing filament, and the other was repairing, I think there were 2 clogged nozzles. And so out of those 1,000 hours, we were down across all 9 printers, so each printer being down counts for 1 hour per hour. We were down for 3 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's 99.7% uptime over the course of 1,000 hours, which took those 9 printers about 5 days.
Yeah, most of that was changing filament.
Yeah, so out of those 3 hours, 1.5 hours was changing filament and restarting the print, and the other 1.5 hours was fixing those 2 nozzle clogs, and that was it for 5 days. An operator spent 3 hours running these machines. So you can, with Quinly, you can see just how scalable 3D printing becomes through the Quinly software and hardware, because if it only takes him 3 hours to run 9 machines, in a typical, maybe a 30-hour work week, he could be running 90 machines.
Yeah.
Assuming he spends the other quarter of his work week doing other things, like counting all the parts from the machines.
We've actually done some calculations on this. So
Yeah.
if someone was working 40 hours a week, just maintaining printers, doing what Quinly would do, if you did like a full-time person getting 50 printers under their control, and that's if they were doing stuff full efficiency, 100% of the time, no breaks for 40 hours a week. So Quinly can make that, like, you can do 1,000 hours of printing with like 3 hours of operator time.
Yeah,
That's like a huge difference.
yeah, it's a massive difference. Um, yeah, I guess so. If we take that and actually try to cost it, because we did end up selling these shields. They were 11 CAD each, $11 each. And so if we were to run it manually, um, the uptime that I got running the printer manually on the side by side was, I think, was about like 65%. So 1,000, for round numbers, 1,000 face shields at $11 is $11,000. But if I had to run these printers manually, and I was able to maintain, 60% uptime, which is pretty good because these were short prints that couldn't be batched. They were short and large. I would have lost out on about $5,000 in that 1 week's period, not to mention my cost of having to be directly involved. So there's a lot of money that gets lost in terms of downtime, and then that's the reason people invest so much time into batching and scheduling to get around it. But that batching and scheduling also costs money.
Yeah.
And with Quinly, you don't have to do that. That's all been taken care of for you. Yeah. And of course, with Prusa, what's awesome about it, if anyone from Prusa is ever watching this, I think something interesting that they would find is that people who run automated machines tend to get more and more machines because they now have the capacity and time to use them. Yeah, exactly. Which I think was a really cool thing that we discovered. Yeah, so if you want to build this directly into Prusa, just let us know. I think you'll sell more printers, and they'll be easier to use.
Yeah, so someone was asking about, he lives in Central Texas. This is Ben. He wants to get the bed below 30, but in Texas, that's kind of hard. So
That's
he's
fair.
asking about ways to maybe change the release temperature or other ways to cool the bed faster.
Yeah, there's a mod that you can do with a fan, and a couple of people have come up with their own solutions of mounting a fan. And there's a routine in Quinly that brings the bed back to cool, and you can put a switch there. It's actually on our YouTube channel. You can put a switch there that triggers the fan to cool the bed down. One thing I would say with 30 is like some PLAs, a lot of PLAs will release just fine at 30, but I think at 35 is actually getting really close to the adhesion point for PLA because with the vapor beds, the new ones that we've been sending out, the adhesion is highest at 45C, so 35 is only half the way down. But if you could get it to 30 and use something like a fan system, that would be probably the best solution and a pretty inexpensive solution to deploy.
Yeah, another one is that, so if you don't need to be next to your printer all the time, if it's in your main work area, you could consider moving them down into like a basement or something.
Yeah.
Since you don't need to be next to them all the time. And those basements tend to be quite cold.
That's a really,
and even in Texas, I'm sure they're at least a few degrees colder.
yeah, that's a good point, because you don't have to monitor your printer directly or all the time. You could consider putting it somewhere else or off-site even. We had an issue at our old location where the warehouse would heat up way too much in the summer. It would be like 32, 35 degrees. And what we did was we just built a really small room and put all the printers inside and just air condition that room. And yeah, because operators don't really need to be in there very much, it was fine to create we called it the freezer, and just climate control that section. Actually, I was speaking with someone today with another one of our early adopters, Aaron, about a USB controlled fan that just plugs right into the Pi. And I think that is a solution that we're going to look into, because then we could provide potentially like an official cooling solution that comes with the kit.
Plug and play,
Yeah, plug and play.
like other things that we provide now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just to make it simpler and easy to install.
Yeah. Could be good getting one of those like larger 100 millimeter fans or something like that.
Yeah,
Push some more air.
yeah, definitely. I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, and there's also like if you have a print farm of multiple printers, like say like 9, 10 printers, it could be worth looking into some air conditioning for a room that they're in.
Yeah,
Since at that number of printers, it could actually just improve the overall stability of the temperature in that room, and yeah, improve your efficiency as a print farm.
yeah. One thing I actually noticed running tests on the Prusa I had brought it home, and I don't have air conditioning in the room that I was using for it. And I found that throughout the day, because the temperature would change so much, the quality of my prints were actually changing, which was really interesting. So especially if you're running a bigger print farm, like 4 to 10 printers, it is worth looking at these types of solutions, because it directly translates to higher output and more more uptime and more earnings for you. And you'll probably find, like, if like let's say a $150 portable AC reduces your cool down cycle time by 5 minutes, and you have 5 printers, every cycle you're saving 25 minutes. And then you calculate that against your kind of earnings rate. You could find that that thing pays itself off within a matter of days if you're running production. So it's definitely worth looking into investing in climate control systems.
Yeah, that's the thing with automated printing, like incremental small improvements add up really quickly.
Yeah, it's way different. Like uh, I guess a good example, like a problem with regular printing, is you can spend uh, $200 on a new hot end that's got a really, really high flow rate. And yeah, your prints will be done much faster, but they will always be limited to how often you're at the machine. So even if your prints are finishing twice as fast, that means in the night when you're setting up that last print to go before you have to leave, then it will finish faster and you'll actually have more downtime,
That makes sense.
which is kind of weird and counterintuitive. And it takes a lot longer to pay itself off. Whereas if you get a double flow rate nozzle on a Quinly printer, you're now printing twice as much 24/7. It's not limited anymore. And it just multiplies on the efficiency of the Quinly, and then those like additional upgrades pay themselves off faster. But I know with the Prusa, you kind of already have that with the machine that you get. They put a nice hot end on it and the really good leveling system. So just putting a Quinly on a Prusa multiplies and helps you pay back the investment on the Prusa as well, much faster.
Sure.
Yeah, apparently Robert's building a print farm in Austin.
Yeah, we've been speaking to him. He's planning to use a lot of Prusas.
Pretty cool. Looking good, because we just came up with this new product recently.
Yeah,
Don't know if
Robert,
you've heard about it.
I don't know if you've been hearing for the last 2 hours or so. There's Quinly for Prusa in case you plan on using those in your print farm. Yeah, I should mention that, yeah, in case you're just joining now, because we get a lot of people coming through, this discount code is a special stream only discount, which is an additional $25 off of the already off of the pre-sale discount for the Prusa printers. And so the pre-sale discount will be going away once we start shipping in 3 or 4 weeks. Kevin's asking, so is the print done? Yes, it's done. It's just waiting for the bed to cool down in this extremely hot room.
It was getting really hot.
Yeah, we should invest in some fans.
We have a fan.
And some
We have
cooling
a fan.
We
get
have an
manual,
old heater that you can have just the fan on.
Oh, really?
manual bed.
It might be noisy.
You try it.
I can't remember if it was noisy or not. We had that on
We
earlier.
can test it out. Oh, we should talk about also something interesting is Prusa clones. One of our beta testers that actually set up Quinly on like one of the AliExpress Prusa clones. So even if you don't plan on running the original Prusas, because they're completely open source, Quinly seems to work quite well with the clones. And this is only something we've discovered a few days ago, but we'll be doing continued testing on it. So that might be something to watch out for. And speaking of clones, and I think we'll have a whole stream about this next week, but Sanford, one of our production interns, actually got the Quinly for Ender working on the Aquila, which is kind of like a Ender V2 clone. So keep your eye out on more news like that. I think we plan to do a more official announcement on it later once it's got more testing done. But some of the changes we've made recently, as we move towards supporting the SKR boards, have actually opened Quinly up to more variable like clone printers as well. It would take forever to cool in your office. You can throw Quinly in your basement. It doesn't care if it's in a dark, cold cellar somewhere. That's where I moved mine down all the way into our basement. And even our basement doesn't get air conditioning, but yeah, I'll play the time lapse. Actually, this time lapse was recorded in our basement, in my basement. Yeah, but you can see without a fan in this, we've been getting like 30 degree weather here.
It's not been good.
Yeah, it's been taking a while. But it's still not too bad. Like just ambient cooling on the Prusa is pretty quick. And then if you were to just point a fan at it, like it would be far, far faster. I think
It like halves the cooldown time.
yeah, it halves the cooldown time, you're right. And that was our test with a 50mm squirrel fan. If you put like a PC fan against it, it would probably be far faster, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
but
one thing I've done is just having like a desk fan or just like a normal household fan. You just keep it pointed at a printer. If it's printing PLA or something that doesn't require a really hot bed, it works great just to provide additional cooling to your print and then help your bed cool down faster after it's done.
Yeah, one of the nice things that Kevin did was, or sorry, not Kevin. One of the things that we were speaking about was looking at getting like the special USB controlled fan so that we could just plug it into the Pi and have Quinly control the fan on and off with the Pi itself.
Yeah, that would be pretty smart.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice solution. Therefore, you just plug it into your Pi and it's kind of ready to go.
One thing I like about the time lapse is the second hand is just flip-flopping between top and bottom.
Yeah, you can tell I took it at 30-second intervals. How do I replay this? Yeah, it was pretty fun to put it together.
Did you just send one cube or did you send a bunch?
What do you mean?
On the Prusa.
For this?
Yeah.
Just just one, I think.
Okay.
I can send another one.
Could be cool to just let it run.
Yeah, sure. I'll send.
See how it goes.
Let me switch over.
That's what we did with the DIY kit.
Yes.
Posted it.
25.
Oh yeah.
It
Okay.
printed, I think it printed 13 and a half cubes. And
Yeah,
it
ran out of
filament.
filament.
Right. This is. Oh well, we can test the filament out.
Oh, that's true.
This is the beauty of
Actually,
Quinly.
yeah, we don't have a ton of filament left.
Yeah, we've got about maybe 100 grams. So I'll send 50 calibration cubes, and we'll let them print overnight and see how the filament out works.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, if anyone else has questions in chat, definitely post them. I think we're kind of coming to the end of the show here. But yeah, if you want to get any last minute questions in, we're pretty open to discuss. If you are interested in learning more about Quinly or just 3D printer automation or 3D printing for production, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel because we do weekly live streams. Next week we'll actually be doing, I think, a print challenge, and we'll be doing it on Monday. So we'll be having, yeah, I think we'll have 2 streams next week.
Oh.
So definitely tune in for that because any sort of print challenge is typically accompanied with prizes. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Trying to
Subscribe.
bribe them.
What did Tonic TV suggest? Maybe you guys can create an Octoprint plugin that uses GPIO once the print is completed. For the Quinly, yeah, it's GPIO. USB would be the simplest, just because with GPIO you still have to get the power from somewhere else, and it can be a bit inconvenient to wire.
Oh, here we go. We've got the
It's really warm in this
might as well
room.
change the camera view.
Yeah, I've switched it over. Here it goes.
Let's go.
Ooh.
That
Oh.
was a beautiful release.
Right into the middle of the plow.
Yeah, the plow just,
Perfectly centered.
that was pretty funny. Oh, no worries.
Can I
I'll
can I
see.
show this print to the camera?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Can you see this
Yeah.
print?
Yeah, there it is.
You gonna focus on it?
I'll focus.
Kind of.
I'll focus.
Theo knows how to focus. This camera.
Ooh.
Possibly.
Wait,
You
I
get
do.
so close that it's forced to focus on.
I think it will. Oh my
Ooh.
gosh.
Cameras are
There
There
we
it is.
go.
cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this filament is super old, but it came out all right actually.
Yeah,
For
it looks decent.
Gray PLA.
Yeah, Pryline gray.
So
Like,
we should say that like the Prusa, even though it's at an angle, it really doesn't change the way that it prints.
Yeah.
What you expect from a Prusa, and actually an Ender as well, the angle really doesn't change anything. Like overhangs are basically the same. Like Z consistency is the same. Like things like corners and accelerations, it's all the same. Like the tilt doesn't really change a whole lot, even though it's pretty interesting to look at.
yeah, I think a lot of people that are watching now don't know, but in the first iteration of the printer automation, the printers were actually mounted entirely sideways. So your prints would come out perpendicular to the print surface. And we were printing, the adhesion on the vapor when it's hot is so great that we were printing, 15 centimeter long, thin parts. If you look at the Quinly for Ender kit, those parts, those side ramps, were actually printed sticking out completely from the side of the bed. Let me pull up a photo so I can show you guys what exactly I'm talking about.
Well, looks like we got some new people in the chat too.
Oh, cool. If
Couple
you're new here,
questions.
yeah, post your questions.
Yeah, someone's asking for Vapor in custom build plate sizes.
The Vapor is specifically engineered to work with the Quinly software. So it would be coming out in sizes that Quinly also supports. That being said, we do have Polylog, which is a print surface that's available in more sizes, and you can ask for custom sizes, and that one is built to work very easily on existing printers. Like it's a build surface that you just clip in, and while it's similar to the Vapor, it's engineered more specifically um, for better and higher higher adhesion and for use with many materials.
Yeah, now also that being said, we're also looking at supporting more printers in the future.
Yes.
So if you have a printer that doesn't need, isn't supported by Quinly just yet, if enough people want it for a specific printer, we will choose that as our next one. So, yeah, we're just slowly and steadily getting there. But yeah, stay tuned. We're working on it.
Yeah. Right now we're looking at the artillery series of machines, because those have kind of been a newcomer in terms of like a lot of people are using them to set up brand new print farms, and word on the street and word from our from the additive manufacturing center in Kentucky is that they're extremely reliable, and they're definitely a step up from the Ender 3, but they're still quite affordable. Oh yeah, I was trying to find a picture of that side ramp printing. So these side ramps here, we were actually printing on a perpendicular build surface, but I don't know if I have any images.
Oh, you want a picture of like Qplug?
Yeah, I want a picture of something printing sideways that just shows the adhesion potential of the build surface.
If you search up Qplug 3DQ, it's the first image.
Oh, right. But I don't think there are any tall parts.
Not tall parts, but there's like it looks like an impeller looking thing. Kind of cool.
Yeah. This is how our printers used to be set up before Quinly existed. Yeah, this is our trade show booth in 2019. I think there is a video actually on our YouTube channel.
With large part auto release.
Yeah,
That one's pretty popular.
this one displays, and it also demonstrates how, like the print quality itself is not affected by tilt or by angle. Because you're adding really small layers at a time, and then of course with the tilt, it's even less of an effect, if there even was one. As long as your bed sticks, you're not going to have deregistration and layer misalignment issues. Yeah. So that was that. Looks like a G-code accident. Okay. This is actually a test on an Ender 5. Yeah, any questions in chat?
Oh, we had another one about the vapor bed lifespan.
That's a good question. The vapor bed, as long as you take care of it, and by take care of it, I mean you don't scratch it or use a scraper on it or tapes or adhesives or glue or isopropyl. You just leave it the way it is and clean it every so often with water and soap. It will last years. Like I've still used one of the first prototype vapor beds that I developed like back in 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now. And I took really good care of that one, and it still prints perfectly. I haven't really noticed any changes in performance. our Ender 3s that we have here are 50 Ender 3s, all use vapor beds, and they were used for production. And the only time we've ever had to switch beds were when we like completely damaged them. Or usually it was like the ender would fall apart in some way and then damage the print surface. But as long as you don't do that, they'll last a really, really long time, like years of usage, and thousands of print hours. And if it doesn't, for any reason, you can contact us, send it back, and we'll send you a replacement. But it's engineered. Part of what's nice about automation is that because we control the release cycle, there's very tight control over the release cycle, and it's very consistent. Like the bed is engineered to be consistent, and the way that we release parts in the software is made to be very consistent. There's not too much that can go wrong, and there's not all of that touching of the print surface that comes with standard print surfaces.
Very true.
And so that also extends the lifetime of the vapor bed, but it also extends the lifetime of your machine, because unfortunately, as humans, we tend to be like a random variable when it comes to robotics. So like, the robots kind of are very repeatable, and as soon as a human comes into the equation, things kind of go haywire. So with Quinly, it actually helps extend the lifetime of the vapor bed and your machine, just because you're not touching it so often.
That makes sense.
Humans are a random variable, quote from the
Yeah, dangerous variable. Will Polylock have a 300 by 300 version? I think we did offer a 300 by 300 version.
I believe it's no longer available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email, and we might have extras from our pre-sale.
Yeah, also, one thing that's going to happen soon is, I believe next week we're doing this. If you were around last month, we did a print-along challenge. Next week we will be doing a multi-day print-along challenge.
Yes.
So in this one, we will have just a very short stream where we release the file, and then you'll have, I think, 3 or 4 days to print it. And then we'll be back with another short stream talking about the winners.
Yeah.
And yeah, we might include some other fun facts about like clone printers and updates on the Prusa stuff, just a Q&A session in general. So
yeah,
if you're new, stay subscribed, and you'll get
smash the like button.
Smash the like button too. Yeah, that's another one.
Yikes.
Yeah, but stay tuned for that. The last sprint along challenge was super fun. We did it. Everyone did it live. It was pretty hilarious. Everyone was trying to print this model live, but I think giving people a couple days will make it a little bit less chaotic.
But I want to see all the fails still, so make sure to post all the fails as well.
Yeah, I guess last time we had categories like, well, best print, and then we also had best failure, and then most popular was the other one. Yeah, the failures that we got as everyone was rushing to print this in the 2 hours that we had allotted were crazy. Like, I don't even, just if you join our community Discord, the images are posted in there, and you can find them and just see how ridiculous, like, scrambling to get these things printed were. It was so fun.
I love Flipsaw's one. His was just hanging on
by
like a tiny little section on the bed.
Yeah.
It was printed like, I think about 80% of the way there before it finally fell over.
Yeah.
But it was very impressive to see how long it got.
It was hilarious.
Another question in chat from Tawny CTV. Can the vapor bed be used for all filaments? So PETG tends to be tricky on other surfaces. So what about vapor?
Good question. Yeah, actually a lot of our customers use PETG on the vapor, and as long as you keep it to normal temperature ranges, it works just fine. The only time that we've seen damage to the bed from a filament is like if you, I think with nylon, we would get, if you would pull it while it was still hot and in the high adhesion state, that would cause damage to the bed.
Yeah, actually, I modified my bed to go up to 135, 140 degrees, and I got impatient, pulled off. Um, it was PCTPE, which is nylon but also flexible, and it did leave like a scar on the bed that wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
So
So
be
something
patient.
something you'll see on all of the in all of the manuals is don't rip parts off when the bed is hot. Like the adhesion strength is extremely high. On our Instagram, we have some videos showing like a small footprint ABS part, and it required 12 kilos of pulling force just to, and it still wouldn't release. So you can imagine 12 kilos of force on a print surface is not usually something too nice for it. But when it cools down, it comes off with a feather. Um, so yeah, as long as you're not yanking parts off when the bed is really hot, it should last fine. And as for PET-G, quite a few of our customers use that as their main material. Oh, he's got more questions. Customization of the printer, that it works with customized printer, but with different print heads require different settings. Different print heads, the bed settings will be the same. Different print heads, you'll have to find different extrusion temperatures because that's just how different hot ends work. And we have all of our firmware available and open to edit. So if you need to set new offsets for your print head, you can download our firmware, adjust that in there, and then upload that to your machine. You can also, as you said in your second comment, you can also do it through G-code, but you can also do it in your firmware as well. Justin 3D asks, I saw Chris Riley tested it all for you. Oh, I guess responding to the different filaments. Did you get more views on your website after Chris's videos? Yeah. So regarding Chris Riley's test, he did test a couple filaments, but he tested them with the Ender 3 stock hot end. And I think part of the reason he had so much trouble with ASA was because the stock hot end doesn't get hot enough for good adhesion with ASA. We recommend, I think it's 260 for ASA, was it?
260, 265 even.
265, and the Ender 3 hot end doesn't go above 235, I think.
I think 245, and then you start getting into trouble if you go higher.
Yeah, because of the PTFE fitting. So
Yeah.
I think if he came back to it and tried with an all metal hot end, it would work. It works just fine. Yeah, and you can also check 3D Print General has a video where he tested things like I think he tested PET-G and nylon and TPU as well. Yeah. Kind of hard to hear the guy.
I need a mic.
Yeah, Steven needs a mic, and also just we still have the mask requirement, so
Not ideal.
yeah, it's a little bit muffled.
Maybe once we all get our second doses.
Yeah, Tony was also asking about the customization options.
Yeah, I answered that, I think.
Oh, I just wasn't listening.
Creality can go to 245. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's good. 245. I would still, for ASA and ABS, we would recommend, well, for ASA specifically, like 265. The optimal adhesion for the vapor depends on both the bed temperature and the nozzle temperature.
And for the nozzle temperature, usually hotter is better.
Yes, for the first layer. Afterwards, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph was mentioning our UI. We actually have a stream of our UI walkthrough if you want to watch. Steven deserves the mic though.
I'm worth it.
We've delegated him to behind the camera.
Oh no, no, no. He can definitely be in front of the camera.
I could be.
Oh, you want to switch with him, Leah?
Oh no, I don't think I could
I would
answer all the
switch. I would
questions.
switch with him then.
That makes sense, I guess.
I'll just take next week off.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh no, no, no. You can take next week off.
That would be fun to watch. Cool. I see our cube, our secondary cube just finished.
You did.
Um,
Beautiful.
might be worth repeating some of the stuff we said right at the beginning, since we've got a bunch of new people in here. But yeah, what you're seeing is our Quinly kit. Thanks. It's been adapted to the Prusa Mark III, Mark III's, and the Mark III's Plus, all the Mark III variants. And it's a tool, both hardware and software, that runs your printer for you. It's got automatic part removal and part release capabilities. And then our software lets you queue up print jobs, dispatch print jobs remotely, and is with the Prusa in particular, we've integrated it into Prusa's onboard diagnostic tools that typically are used by the operator to run the machine better, but Quinly now uses it to run your machine better, and it runs it the same way you would. So everyone at 3DQ has experience running 3D printers for production, and we also have a huge user base that we constantly discuss with and make design decisions with. I was showing off the new UI a little while ago, and that was like entirely designed in conjunction with members in our Discord. And yeah, this kit is built to run the printer for you like a mini operator would, but luckily Quinly is not sentient and doesn't get tired. So when you look at how much you're paying it, it's about 5 cents an hour if you run it 24/7 for a year. At which point, probably some things on the Prusa will start to give out. And yeah, I think most people who purchase the Prusa are people who value their time and just want a machine that works. And so we respect that idea with the Quinly by making it extremely simple to install. And then once it's on there, it's essentially maintenance free. And of course, it runs your printer while you're gone. It basically, it's been awesome developing on the Prusa because it basically makes the Prusa smart enough to run itself. And Steven was saying how, like, as a platform, it's almost as if Prusa was made for Quinly because it's got all the basic hardware features built in. Yeah, integrating it was a fun challenge that we spent the last 6 months doing, but the end result is awesome. It results in a super easy user experience, and it's all about saving you time and getting more out of your printer. So much so that if you go back in the stream and look back about some of the cases we talked about, pretty often the kit pays itself off in about a week, just because you'll be printing so much more and you'll be spending so much less time running your printer and thinking about your printer. Yeah, and I think looking forward to, we're very excited. We're working with a couple people who have Prusa print farms, and we're also developing our pro high volume print farm software version of Quinly, where you can take many Quinlys and link them up into a single network, and then Quinly can not only run your printers but make operation decisions, like if a printer goes down, reroute jobs to other machines. And I think everyone sees the trend of automation in manufacturing, and I think 3D printing is a beautiful tool for manufacturing, and being able to automate it just lifts it to an entirely new level. Um, just the fact that some of our um, customers that have individual machines have managed to increase their output, you know, 2 to 10 times than it was before, I think is a testament to that. And people who embrace automation are going to end up being far ahead of those who want to stick to the manual way. I think, oh, go ahead.
No.
Okay. I think, yeah, I also think one of our goals here at 3DQ in general with the 3D print automation is um, it becomes a way of bringing manufacturing back locally and distributing manufacturing around. And what I mean by that is because it's so inexpensive to run an automated printer, it no longer makes sense to outsource to countries where labor is cheaper and where governments subsidize manufacturing, or they cut costs by making, you know, poorer environmental decisions. With when you lower the cost of manufacturing so much, which is what automated 3D printing does, it becomes less expensive to operate here locally than it is to operate somewhere else and ship parts over.
For sure.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Like, why is it cheaper for me to have like a $2 part shipped, you know, 4,000 kilometers to me than it is for me to buy it from a local hardware store?
Exactly.
And so I think or I don't think that is our goal with the Quinlys and with using 3D printing as manufacturing, because it does democratize it and makes it extremely accessible. Like the cost is accessible to anyone. And the way we've architected Quinly is that you can start with one printer, and as many of our customers have, you can add additional machines extremely easily, and there's no huge upfront capital investment. So if you have an idea and you're making stuff and you want to sell it and it starts taking off, you get a second Quinly, and it costs you just as much as the first one, and you can just keep adding them. And there's no, like, you never have to go to the point where you're investing $40,000 in a set of injection molds or anything like that. So I think that's something to keep in mind for those of you watching, where Quinly is going in the future and kind of what our mission is with this. I have a lot of friends who love this as well. Invite them.
Invite them.
Or send them a link to the stream, because I think
Yes.
we'll probably be ending pretty soon.
Yeah, get them on the Discord too.
Yeah, there's actually, maybe somebody can throw the link to the Discord in chat, but all of our staff are in this Discord, and so are many of our customers as well. If you have questions, or if your friends have questions, definitely hop in, take a poke around. Justin 3D is asking, is Pro version a subscription? Yes, Pro is meant for larger operations, like if you have many machines and need them to be networked. But the basic version, which will have the queuing, the 24/7 camera, and eventually failure detection, that will always be free. Oh yeah, please like the video. Yeah,
Smash that like button.
if you like this stuff, please give us a like. It definitely helps bring a lot more awareness to the video. Surprisingly, yeah, like likes actually do a lot on YouTube, especially for smaller channels. Okay, and we have audio now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, guys.
We're there.
That was a big L.
We're back. There should be audio now.
Yeah, it has 30 seconds to come in, probably.
Okay.
Oh, I don't hear you.
You don't?
No.
At all?
It says his mic is being picked up. Can you guys hear us in chat? Pay the bill. They cut our electricity. Okay, all good,
So
they say.
sorry, guys.
They're saying all good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, sweet. Okay.
We got 14 people back.
Oh my
I'm so
goodness.
sorry.
What a weird end to the stream. Just completely power off the streaming computer. Okay, let's see if we missed any questions. BC Hydro has decided our stream is over. Oh, okay. So Tonkus TV was asking about SKR. Yes, some of the recent updates we've been doing to support Prusa actually ends up helping SKR boards. And so at the moment, the present version of the software does not have SKR support, but it works with all versions of the stock Creality board. However, expect that soon, pretty soon. I'm testing with an SKR v2 right now. Oh, we actually got people back, which is funny.
I have a feeling it was just saying that because we had like 2 viewers at one point while we were gone, but there was at least 4 people in chat. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Numbers are bad.
So I can't replace the board and the v3 v2 with then with Quinly. Not yet. Yeah, Kevin answered. Not quite yet, but very soon. Like I said, some of the development for Prusa actually helps with SKR, and it's mainly just needs to be tested. If you want to help test SKR, let me know, and I can send you some beta builds as well, depending on how involved you want to get. One thing that's pretty cool if you're in the Discord is if you've requested features, I'll send out beta builds of Quinly to you if you want to help test them for the features that you requested. Well, I think it'd probably be a good time to wrap up.
Wanted to
All
at least
things
say bye to you
considered.
guys, like.
Yeah, the E3V 2.0. That's the board I need to work. Okay, stick around in the Discord because we'll announce as soon as the update for the SKR comes out, or subscribe to their channel as well. Okay, yes, let's.
I'm gonna give a summary too.
I think we did before we cut out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
It's gonna pause an issue. Is it gonna try to printing something?
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh, right, the whole
It's
50
canceled
part
it.
thing got canceled.
Okay, yeah. So, in closing, this is Quinly for Prusa. Did a little bit of a recap earlier. The special stream discount code will be live for a little bit after the stream in case you're just watching in the playback. Definitely use that to get an extra 25% off. Or sorry, an extra $25
off.
Use the code in the top of the screen to get an extra $25 off our already discounted pre-sale price. And then that price will return to normal once we start shipping the kits out. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining and everyone who
came back.
Yeah, stuck through the power outage. Yeah, and we'll see you all next week with on Monday with the multi-day print challenge, which I think is going to be really fun. So look out for a very short stream on Monday. where we'll be distributing the challenging part. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's results with that.
Me too.
Yeah, if you have any further questions or want to talk to any of this development staff, join our Discord or send us an email at info@3dq. Someone will respond pretty quick. Yeah, or if you just want to have a discussion about it. The Discord's also a great place to connect with the rest of the automated printing community. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the stream. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for joining us back, and yeah, we'll see you on Monday. If you have any friends interested in the kit, the live stream discount is valid for 24 hours, so you can pass that code on to them if they're in a different time zone or anything. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. It was nice talking with you guys as
Nice
always.
talking.
All right. We'll see you on Monday.